There are three institutions that have proven themselves over the years to be failures. The first one is government. Government should not exist. Everything that it does, everything that it is, it takes from everyone else. It can't create anything. There is no innovation. There is no spontaneity. There's only destruction. There's only reallocation. There's only taxation. The reality is that if you think about it, government has spent a great deal of information, time, resources, and its very existence to deceive you and ultimately to destroy you as a man. The reason why I say this is because if you think about your life and you think about everything in it, what has government ever truly done for you? A lot of people say, oh, it protects us from other countries, when in reality, if you live in the West, your government has done more to completely destroy, extort, and literally molest every other country. And you're getting a good look at it right now with the so-called Ukrainian war. What we're seeing right now is a great influx in massive misinformation. Now, they're saying it's going one way, but the reality is, if you think about something like, weapons of mass destruction, and then the narrative changing from that to, let's bring democracy to these people. Let's bring a republic to these people. And in reality, all they brought to these people was death, deception, massive inflation, and a long history of being constantly bombarded with nonsense. Government literally means mind control. To engage with the government, you have to accept the fact that you're not thinking for yourself. Being patriotic is basically openly admitting that you're being a pawn and you're proud of it. It's basically saying, hey, I'm willing to go out and die and fight for something bigger than myself. When in reality, government portrays itself as an inanimate object. It portrays itself as the land. It portrays itself as the trees, as the air, as an invisible line that you can't see, but you know is there. It portrays itself as a language that only the native people speak naturally, and thus they're given their accents. It portrays itself as things that are basically non-tangible, and yet it expects tangibles from you. That is a failed organization, a failed institution, the embodiment of a crappy, shitty system that should not exist. But yet and still we live in a world where it does. The second thing that should not exist is the institution of marriage. A lot of people say, I want to get married because of biblical reasons. I believe that it's biblical to take a wife and to have children and only be with this one woman. However, if you took the time to debunk that argument, all you have to do is spend like a day, maybe 2 days, sitting and reading the book of remembrance. That's the Bible, from the first page to the very last, from the so-called Old Testament all the way to the New Testament. And nowhere in there will you see anywhere where it says the Most High says that you need to get married, or you need to swear allegiance to someone or something. In fact, it says it's a sin to swear oaths. You're commanded against swearing oaths. You're commanded against giving your word for certain things, or really anything. It says, I command thee not to swear an oath. Swear no oaths. And yet that's exactly what the institution of marriage is. It's a contract. It's supposedly a binding contract between two parties, between a man and a woman, or a man and a man, or a woman and a woman. Because if you look at the origins of marriage, that institution, it comes from a Roman Edomite custom. They invented it. They decided that they wanted to lower a man to the position of a woman. They promoted whoredoms. They promote chaos. The people who live in the mountains, the sons and daughters of Edom. The reality is, marriage should not exist. A lot of people may say, how could you say this? What do you mean? Well, it's always supposedly a biblical thing. However, in marriage today, you go before the state, and the state gives you the authority to get married. The state basically says it's putting itself in the place of God, and it's giving you the power through the state to then become legally binded to each other through this institution known as marriage. A completely failed institution, mind you, because the divorce rate is at about 90% and growing constantly every day. Most people don't look at the statistics, they don't look at the facts, and they never realize that, hey, not only are they literally killing themselves to try to engage in a failed practice known as monogamy, but they're giving up common sense. They're giving up their grip on reality, and they're pushing themselves further into chaos, trying to maintain the idealistic law. And they justified all kinds of reasons. They say, oh, I don't want to get an STD. Oh, I don't want to live a lie. I want to make an honest woman of her. Well, how can you make an honest woman of a woman who's not honest to begin with? And anything that you have to do that requires the state's power, by definition, should not exist, because states themselves have not always existed. So why in the hell do they have the authority to give anything? And why is it that no one questions the fact that this failed institution, this failed practice, should not exist? Because the lie is what's pushed, and that in itself goes completely against everything that's in the book of remembrance, i.e. the Bible. The third thing that should not exist is incarceration, the concept of jail. Where this practice came from, I have no clue. But if you truly think about it, the idea of locking a man up or a woman up for a supposed crime is completely inhumane. The idea of keeping an animal, a dog, a cat, as a pet, keeping it captive, a slave to the food that you constantly give it, to live in your home amongst you, and to constantly be exposed to its dander while it's exposed to you, putting yourself in needless danger. That captivity, that mindset, should not exist. Incarceration is completely inhumane. Keeping someone jailed for any reason is nuts. If someone commits a crime, they should be able to just make amends. If you steal, have this man return, have him pay back what he owes. Hell, have him pay double. If this woman steals, have her pay double. But in our society today, it's not right to kill people, even though that's the most humane thing you can do. If someone is molested, if someone molests, what kind of sense does it make to incarcerate the person who did the raping, who did the deed, and then force the victim, to live in a world knowing that the person who perpetrated this crime is not only alive, but they're being given 3 meals a day, and they're put in a position where they can continuously perpetuate that practice, perpetuate that lifestyle, and put that harm on others. It is a double-edged sword of incarceration. It goes far beyond normal evil. It's the simple concept of locking a man up is so evil that even in the animal kingdom, even lions and tigers that live in captivity have been known to propagate acts of homosexuality, because it's so wrong in living that way. It's such a strain on your mental state that it's not even acknowledged. The incarceration system, the prison industrial complex is such a wicked institution. The concept of it goes so far beyond that of normal thinking that it literally dives deep into the realm of slavery, into the realm of unimaginable wickedness. Forcing a man and a woman or animals to do things that they don't do naturally, that naturally come to them, is evil. And it always has been. It's a level of control, a level of a system that exists specifically to influence, to distort, to perpetuate free labor. And on top of that, it's to dangle two things in front of everyone. You got the carrot and you got the stick. You do good, you get a carrot. You do bad, you get incarcerated. Fear. It puts people in a constant state of fear. You're wondering constantly, oh, if I go to jail, if I commit a crime, if I accidentally do an infraction, if I get a ticket and I don't pay it, They're going to put a warrant out for my arrest, and they're going to incarcerate me without question. If you don't make your child support payment, guess what? Debtor's prison is not only not abolished, but it's alive and well, and it's thriving, and you will be a victim of it because of the prison industrial complex. The reality is the institutional incarceration system is beyond evil. Most people commit a crime and they live their whole life inside that system. After you spent 20 to 30 years living incarcerated, you become what's known as institutionalized. You become a prison grade mindset. You're used to living a life that is so not worth living that you've literally been broken mentally as well as physically. The constant torment of having to fight off homosexuals, to eat food that's not even worth eating, to dress up like an idiot day in and day out and be surrounded by a bunch of stinky homosexuals. That in itself is ridiculous torture. 3 things should not exist: government, marriage, incarceration. If you believe otherwise, tell me why. But the reality is, if you're able to face truth, there is no argument for any of this stuff. These are just facts of life. Facts that should be broken. Something to think about. Peace.